you didn't invent grifting. You didn't invent like this idea of snake oil salesman. It's like it's a very old trade, my guy. Like just because
Hey,
you
what grifting and what type of bull am I perpetuating?
um again, like I don't even want to go like political debate here, bro. Like to be honest, because like there's no way that you are actually
He
going
joins a
to
political
have a
debate stream to
conversation with me.
not engage in a political debate.
You're not going
Yes,
to
I
have a
will.
conversation with me when it comes to political debate because you don't
I
want to.
will.
You don't want to have that conversation with me. Trust me.
I promise you, I will have that conversation, but you need to answer my questions. Like, for example, what is grifting?
Grifting is selling people an idea. Although, and then this is the thing about it is like you probably actually will sidestep it and say, I actually do believe everything that I say. I do think that Trump is a danger to the country. I do think that
Obviously,
Trump
I
is
do. Obviously, I do. What the?
again. So, but you understand that like it's not actually true. Like this whole thing about the market. I remember.
Wait,
Okay, so
so you
remember when
think
the
I
market went
secretly?
down?
So you think I
I'll
secretly
give you an
support?
example.
Wait, hold up. No, what
I'll
you're
give you an
saying is
example though.
no. What you're saying is I secretly support Trump. Is that what you're saying?
No, 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 no. I know that you don't, but but what I'm trying to say is like
So I'm not grifting.
you have these useless takes that aren't actually based in reality. Like I'll
Which
take the
ones?
market for example. So when the market went down, at the introduction of tariffs, you guys were all about how the market is going to be down, and then I was actually talking to people and saying like being down 10% or 20% is a normal thing because if you've been in finance or you understand finance or paid attention to it, corrections, regardless of the reason why corrections happen, they do happen.
But
And
it's
people
important to know
do,
why they're happening because we would have
right,
seen
right.
better
No, I'm not
growth
saying.
otherwise. So we would have seen
So what
better
I'm
growth
trying to tell
otherwise because
you,
we wouldn't have originally seen that decline in the
let me
very
finish.
first place. So the
Let
issue
me
was
finish.
that Donald Trump's tariffs led to that
Let me
decline.
finish. Let me finish. So at the time, you guys talked about how the market is basically heading for disaster. Nobody's going to be able to recoup their money. People lost 40%, 30. You're going to
Not
lose all
true.
your
That's not what
money.
we said, by the way.
So, so at the
Some people do
time,
lose their
I
money
was
though. That's
saying
true.
I was looking at the numbers, and I'm like, these people are literally all fear mongering people to sell their stocks. And funny enough, I work where people trade, so
Actually,
they're
that's
calling me
exactly
like,
what the
yeah, I
Trump
want to.
administration was doing, and we
So,
were putting it back
so
on you
people,
guys.
hang on. So people calling me
I
and they're like, "Oh, I
apologize.
want to sell all my stocks because this guy's a madman." I'm just like, "This is normal, bro. Like, you don't actually have to sell your stocks and lock in these losses. If you don't actually do this, you might be better off because the market could rebound very quickly." And that's what my stance was, because that's what my stance should always be. And you guys were talking about how bad it's going to be for the long term, and the second quarter is even going to be worse than the third, and the third is going to be worse than the second. And none of it was ever true. And none of it was ever true. The market recouped all of the losses. It gained record highs. Things are still shaky for a lot of different reasons. Mostly the Fed rate being high. But the same thing, like that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's just one thing that you may have thought there was a disaster coming, and it was never true, but you still pushed it anyway.
So I never made this claim. So what I did claim is that Trump caused tariffs, right, which then led to a reduction in those markets because it is the case that it increases uncertainty. And that's also demonstrated the effect that it could have on other sorts of markets as well. And just because it doesn't have a negative impact in the long run, particularly on the stock market, doesn't mean that it didn't have a negative impact on anyone in general. We can also point to the idea that specifically in terms of the tariffs, if the tariffs were never implemented, this decline would have never happened in the first place. So likely we would have seen even more gains.
Again, so that you may have not said, like everyone was saying, that the tariffs are going to basically
So then I wasn't making the
make it
useless
a
takes that
triple
were
in
not. Wait,
price
wait, wait, wait. So then
in the
what you
second
said
half
was
of the
incorrect.
year.
Can I clarify something? You said what you said then was incorrect because I wasn't making useless takes that are not based in reality. So tell me what useless take I was making that was particularly not
That the
based in
second
reality.
half of the year that we were going to be having empty shelves. You said that.
I never said empty shelves. That's not something I
Yes,
ever
you.
said.
Oh my God. You said that everything is going to be basically bare shelves. Nobody's going
This
to
is
be able to get anything.
never once said this, by the way.
Yeah, you did. You said the
No, I
second
didn't.
half.
No, I
You said
didn't.
the second half of the year. Man, you said it. You said
No, I
it.
didn't.
Everyone else said
You
it.
will
I was
not be able
really
to find
laughing at you
you
all.
will not be able to find a single clip of me on the internet of me saying that. I'm on live for 6+ hours every single day, and you wouldn't be able to provide any evidence of me saying that. You're such a liar.
I'm actually sure I could. If you have, I mean,
Go
are your
ahead.
YouTube videos? Are
Go
your
ahead.
YouTube
I
videos?
promise you. I promise you, you can't find it. Good luck. Go give me a view on every single one of my YouTube videos because you won't find.
Sure, kid. Again, like everybody else, they were fear mongering the markets. That's one. That's just to go back to the point of why I brought that up is because you guys say these things in this frame of where it is right now, how you look at it. And yes, for that, you are not a grifter because you're just trying to portray something in the moment, but you don't have any actual context or understanding, or maybe you do understand and don't
I
want
have
to
a degree in
actually.
economics.
Maybe it's not beneficial to the platform. But if you're talking about in this case, what it was economics, and you're saying that in the second half of the year, how everything was going to be terrible. Like it's not, and it
So,
hasn't been.
so I can make certain claims. Like GDP growth will be worse off. Unemployment will be worse off. Jobs reports will be worse off. Inflation will be worse off. All of those things are going to be true given that tariffs are implemented. And what's happened?
So the jobs
What,
for
seriously, wait. What happened? Real growth has declined. Inflation has gone up since tariffs have been implemented. Jobs reports have been so bad that he fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and then the person he put into office said the same thing about the jobs reports. Only
jobs
22,000 new
reports,
jobs, which is
what
way
affects
below
jobs reports?
expectations.
You said you have a degree in economics. What is the number one lever when it comes to jobs?
I would say demand.
No, what does the Fed use in its literal,
Oh,
like, what is
interest
it
rates.
actually use? So higher interest rates over a longer period of time, what you studied economics, what is going to happen to the job market?
If you keep up if you keep up in interest rates, it's going to have a negative effect on the job market in terms of
Thank
unemployment.
you.
But the
So
reason
how
why
does
they
what
have
does that
to,
have to do?
but the reason, listen, the
What
reason
does
why
that
they,
have to do with Trump?
listen, I'll tell you, the reason why they have to do that is because of tariffs putting upward pressure on prices. We would have lower interest rates right now if it is the case that we never imposed tariffs in the first place, because we had this high interest rates under the Biden-Harris administration, because we were trying to offset the inflation, which
If you
we
take
were
in the
offsetting it,
standard
and it was going down.
deviation, if you take in the standard deviation of a couple of points, the CPI index has been the same. Like it's not like it's there's been no crazy
It's gone
difference.
up by 0.4% since April, which is
Exactly,
when,
but if you're
yeah.
looking at the standard deviation of where it was and where it's been and where it's going, like that is
Wait,
within the
by the way, I
it's
don't know what you mean
basically
by
not changing. Is 0.04% is not a change. It's just not, man. It's just not. So again, you're saying that you're gonna tie everything back to a guy,
can
but
I
basically,
explain why this is irrelevant?
so I guess my next question would be is
Before you do,
what
can I address what we just said, and then I'll let you ask your question. Okay. So the upward pressure that because it demonstrates upward pressure
I understood what you
indicates.
said.
Let me please. The upward pressure indicates to the Federal Reserve that they need to keep interest rates higher. They're way better at determining that than you. You have no clue what you're talking about. They have PhDs. Okay.
I said I understood what you're saying, what you're implying, but it's basically a way to just blame the guy for everything. There's going to be a way that you can blame him, and you're good at that, and that's your job. I understand
No,
that.
it's not
My
just me
question to
blaming.
you is,
It's
so
literally
my
it's
question to
literally
you
top
is,
economists indicating this.
sure. So Parker, so I got a question for you. So
Even
let's
Stephen
say
Moore,
that
his old economist,
Harris,
says this now.
let's go back. Harris wins. W. Harris. What would have been her economic policies?
Well, she wanted a $6,000 child tax credit for the first year of a child's life, $3,600 through them being 5 years old, $3,000 through them being 18, $25,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers for new homes, $2,000 cap on pharmaceuticals out of pocket. She largest investment
So
in
many
renewable energy
great
ever,
things.
making us less dependent on foreign energy.
So
What?
many great things. How is she going to pay for it?
Yeah, we can look at the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget. They did an analysis and comparison of the way that Harris was going to pay for her campaign plans versus Trump was going to pay for his campaign plans, and it indicated that Harris would do $4 trillion less on a central estimate comparative to Trump over the next 10 years.
So pay for it how? Pay for it how though?
Increasing taxes
Where's
on
it
income
gonna,
over $400,000 a year.
and who else?
That's it.
Not corporations?
Well, corporations to 21 to 28%. Yeah.
Okay. So when you look at the two levers that you have disposable to you in trying to affect pricing or income, I would say, when you look at the taxes and trying to implement taxes, higher taxes on corporations. So if you can understand the idea that a corporation will raise its taxes because they have a higher fee at the port, or a higher fee at the IRS. Why do you not understand that both of those will lead to higher pricing? So what is better about taxes than tariffs?
Yeah, so the reason why tariffs are worse is because it's an aspect of cost of production and distribution that will be passed on to the consumer to a greater extent. And also, like the corporate taxes
Wait,
that we're
you were
advocating
able to
for are
calculate.
the corporate taxes we're advocating for are progressive by nature, which will incentivize corporations to invest into their firms to a greater extent.
So wait, so you're trying to tell me that the trickle down of corporations having higher costs is only affecting individuals because it's Trump using tariffs and not Kamala using taxes?
Yeah, no, I explained the difference between how corporate taxes and how tariffs have an effect, particularly on the cost of goods, because specifically tariffs are going to be an aspect of the cost of production and distribution, which will cause the prices to go up. Whereas the otherwise, you're referencing likely profits taken out.
So if the profits are taking out, what will the corporations do?
What do you mean?
Oh my God, you are not. You're sidestepping the question because it's such an easy
Just
way to.
just clarify. I literally just said, what do you mean one time? Just
If
clarify.
if corporations have higher taxes or a higher bill at the IRS cutting into profits, what will they do?
There could be some level of offset onto the employees, but it also provides or not onset to the employees. It would be offset onto the prices, but it would be lesser than that of the increase in tariffs.
So you're literally thinking that it would be less on taxes,
Yeah,
but why? Taxes are
because
implemented
one's
through
an aspect
policy.
of
Hang on.
one's an aspect of cost of production and distribution. The other one's on profits.
So one option you have is to raise taxes unilaterally for everyone in a bill that's very hard to overturn. On the other hand, you have tariffs that are can be removed tomorrow based off good trade deals. So what option would have been a longer what when you talk about price increases for consumers, what option sounds better to you? What like why do you think that tariffs that can be removed tomorrow, if they're affecting a specific type of, in one case it was a farmers, you remove and and release that valve of pressure on different economies or different countries, but you can't do that with taxes. It's all on us, it's all on the taxpayers, and it's on nobody else. You're trying to pretend like taxes don't work, but I mean,
Can I ask
seriously,
you a
like
question? Tariffs are
tariffs don't work.
taxes.
Like
Can you tell me what
taxes,
it? Here, let's go through this. What's a
taxes
tariff?
don't work.
What's a tariff?
It is a cost of doing business. It's a cost of doing business to either the importer or the exporter who wants to make a deal at the border when they're shipping their goods in. That's the
So
tariff.
let me explain it to you. So a tariff
Is
is a
that not a
tax.
tariff?
A tariff is a tax on an imported
Hang
good.
on. Before you call it a tax, before you call it a tax, and you're saying that it's automatically going to be that the importer pays it, you're trying to pretend like an exporter cannot pay some of that bill, some of that tariff.
Nope,
You're trying to tell
they're
me that
not.
if a
It's
Chinese company
how can
is
the
used to
American
charging,
how can the American company get the export or the American government get the exporter to pay? How could they enforce that?
that's the beauty of free market capitalism. You don't have to negotiate prices. Prices are not set by any one person. Like you know this.
I
Like what do
know.
you mean? Like, what do you mean? How can they enforce it? You don't need anyone to be enforcer. You're so worried about somebody enforcing something. Like, just allow people to
No.
do
You said
what they
no.
do.
So the American government doesn't have the exporter pay it, right? That would be ridiculous. It's the American business that's importing the product, and it's passed on to the consumer because it's an aspect of cost of production and distribution.
Wait,
But if
you're
you want to, but the point that you were referencing and to say that like how they some level will pay for it, which isn't actually the case, is that they will eat some of the cost on their half, right? Specifically to be able to stay in business with the United States, which one doesn't take into account that there is competition, right, amongst different types of markets around the world. So if there's another market that doesn't have these tariffs, for example, in the context of Europe, they'll likely just sell to Europe.
what's the all right? So, what's the number one buyer of these goods? Like, you trying to pretend like if they just eliminate the U.S. market, like these companies are going to do well for themselves? You
Yeah,
you
they would
actually
just
believe
they
that?
would likely have better profit margins with with other countries. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about trade. Can we talk about trade deficits real quick since we're on this? What is the? Do you know? If you don't know, I'll just say the United States has a like 1.3 trillion dollar trade deficit with the entire world, right? Do you know that?
So I don't have an issue with trade deficits.
Right, I
I'd
understand
have to
that.
look at what the
I
overall
understand
trade
you
deficit
don't,
is and adding
because
all the
you go to the
different.
grocery
Hey,
store, you
let
have a
me
trade
speak.
deficit with the
Let me
grocery
speak.
store.
I'm
I get
trying to
it.
speak. I'm trying to speak. If you want
You
me to be
didn't
able to,
answer my question though, man.
because you were cutting me off.
You went somewhere else, bro.
Go ahead then.
It's
Say
one.
whatever you want.
It was one point. It's 1.3 trillion or so. What is the total Chinese trade deficit that they have with the world?
I have no clue.
They have a surplus of 1 trillion, like 1.2 trillion dollars. They do have specific trade deficits with Taiwan, for instance, where they can't make the highest level of semiconductors. So they have a trade deficit with Taiwan. Although they have a trade deficit with Taiwan, they have an overall surplus to their country to make sure that they're getting more money from other countries than they are through selling them goods and services than they would ever buy. This is how you build an economy, by making sure that you are supplying another nation with something, a good or service, and making sure that your constituents are not sending all of their dollars out to different countries. That's why they have, the growth that they have, and that's why we don't. We exported all of our middle class jobs and laborers' jobs elsewhere, and people are getting the benefit of it.
Okay.
So that's another reason why I think that this is a good idea. Tariffs are, you're trying to make it like seem like tariffs are, not a good thing. They're a negotiation tool that seem to be um, at least not absolutely crushing the economy or wrecking the economy, and we will see how it goes. Maybe it does eventually turn bad, but right now it hasn't been, and I don't think that it will.
Okay. So the idea that you have that trade deficits are like just bad is ridiculous. A trade deficit is simply just making the claim that you are going to be importing more products in your country than you're exporting to that country, right? So that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't really understand the issue.
No,
Is you
one
understand that
trade
like
deficit
we
is
send
not.
money?
No.
Let me please finish. I'll let you speak. We send money to them. They send their goods to us. That's us investing in them and them investing in us. It's good to do that because then it increases demand on the US dollar because more people want to engage in trade with the US. Okay, if you engage in tariffs, it will decrease trade with the US and decrease demand on the US dollar. And then you also said it's like a negotiation tool. And if you negotiate to get rid of it, that means it then wouldn't be in use anymore. And it wouldn't be like bringing back manufacturing to the country. It wouldn't be affecting the trade deficit. Like, I don't see what your point would be on that.
So
And then you
this
said it's not wrecking the economy. It is. The jobs reports have been horrible. Like we've pointed to them way below expectations
we've
multiple times. Can I please finish? Multiple times lower than what we expected, based upon like the year ago rates and under the Biden-Harris administration, where we have like 7 times less now than what we had then in terms of jobs numbers that's coming every single month. We also have lowered real GDP growth, 1.3% on average, when we had like 2 to 3% prior under the Biden-Harris administration for like several quarters. We can also point to the unemployment increasing, inflation increasing since the tariffs have been implemented, which is going to continue to trend up, especially because we've seen the US dollar decrease in value because of how bad the jobs reports have been recently. So the economy is not looking good, and this wouldn't be the case if we didn't impose the tariffs.
So that again, you have a crystal ball. I don't know where you found it. I don't understand where you found this all foreseeing power, but you're trying to
The
pretend
Bureau
like
of Labor Statistics and the St. Louis Federal Reserve. Sorry.
no. So again, we are in a scenario where things are changing and the ideas are changing and they're being implemented. Now, whether things would be better or worse in the short term, that maybe you could have an answer for that. Like the jobs number should have been better if X, Y, and Z was not implemented. Perfectly fine over this last 6 months, maybe 3 months even. Sure, but on the long term effect of trying to change the idea that we are going to change our 1.2 trillion deficit into a surplus, if not at least a balance, is in trying to get that done. It is not some terrible idea that nobody should ever try. Because look where we were headed. We were headed to insolvency. and you're trying to pretend like it's, having a trade deficit is not that important. If it's not important, then why does Japan not have a trade deficit overall in their country? Why does China have a $1.2 trillion surplus? The exact opposite. Who is creating better cities for their constituents, China or the United States? How long did you want to lose this battle of who's getting what based off these trade deals?
Better real GDP in the U.S. Per capita. If you want to look at the imposing of a tariff, how does the imposing of a tariff affect the trade deficit?
Over the long term, what will happen is you no longer have that trade deficit. If it's unprofitable to ship it over from China, the factory eventually will come here. Now, I don't want to bring up the chips.
You say eventually, but what you're not understanding, I need to explain this. What you're not understanding is that the factory coming here, now all of the goods that they rely on in order to manufacture the products that they're manufacturing are going to be tariffed and more expensive, because they have to buy them for other countries. So aspects of the manufacturing process will be more expensive. That's why we've seen domestic manufacturing decline since Trump got in office, because the cost of manufacturing in the United States has increased, even though it is the case that we've imposed the tariffs, because the manufacturers in the United States rely on goods from other countries around the world as an aspect of their domestic manufacturing process.
Right, but that's the actual product cost, not the labor cost. Now, the product cost is a different thing, absolutely. But when eventually there's going to be this snowball effect to where it will be more profitable to companies to no longer buy from an external source and just buy internally. This snowball effect you've seen work because China did it over the past 40 years. So what we're basically saying is
they didn't use tariffs. Did they use the tariffs like this to do that? They didn't use universal tariffs to do that.
So but what I'm trying to say is we're no longer allowing millionaires and billionaires to export a job that somebody does want. I know that you're going to say that people don't want these jobs. Like, trust me, people
That's not
want
the claim
these
I'm
jobs
making. Not the claim I'm making.
There's hundreds of thousands of people being unalived due to substance abuse, and there's people on the street everywhere. And why? Because they don't even have the job. They don't have the job that they could have taken. So what do? They sit around. They're bored. They're getting government.
So
income,
So you're saying we need. So you're saying we need more jobs.
You're bored all day with no job.
So hold up. You're saying we need more jobs. So we shouldn't have imposed tariffs, which has harmed our ability to get jobs.
Not in the long term, man. Not in the long term.
And did you know that domestic manufacturing increased under the Biden-Harris administration and declined under the Trump administration under his first term, and now since he got in office?
But wait, how is increasing by literally giving Fortune 500 companies billions of dollars to hire you going to actually affect you? It's just costing you your tax dollars to buy yourself a job. That makes zero sense.
What is this guy saying, bro? What is this guy yapping about, bro? What the fuck is he saying?
You're basically saying that Biden increased jobs through what? Through spending, my guy.
Yeah, through the Inflation Reduction Act, the Chips and Science Act, the PACT Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the spending that happened under the Biden-Harris administration led to $4 trillion less debt-related spending than the Trump administration. So here's when Trump got in office. Here's when he left office. You see how it's less. Here's when Biden gets in office. Here's when Biden leaves office. And then you see when Biden leaves office, it goes down twice.
What was the inflation rate during that time, sir?
Was the inflation rate under the Biden-Harris administration?
Yeah. Did the inflation? Hang on. Can you please pull up the inflation rate on top of that chart?
Well, you don't put it on the chart, but I can put.
Not on that one specifically.
Hey,
just pull them both up.
By the way, here, let me show you this, because you'll say like you're trying to say that inflation is impacting this somehow. If you look at this, it's real private manufacturing investment, meaning it takes into account inflation. Do you see? Real means it takes into account inflation.
Parker, you're not understanding what my ask is. Pull up the inflation rate over the past 10 years, just like you have this one, and see where it goes up. So if you're it's
irrelevant because this is taking into account inflation.
It's not irrelevant if you're spending yourself into oblivion, printing 40% of the total fucking money supply.
Most of the printing happened under Trump. I can show you the M2 money supply. Do you want me to show you? And M1.
That was actually bipartisan spending.
Okay, so now it's bipartisan spending. You were just blaming it on the Biden-Harris administration.
Biden had more partisan spending than Trump ever did. He only did the Tax Jobs and Cuts Act. So,
Well,
and it's and
I'm talking about what they signed into law. So
it's a
either way,
decrease
they
in
signed it
revenue.
into
It's
law.
not
So
handouts. It's not
all you're saying is
handouts
that
through
all
bills
you're saying is
to
that
Samsung.
all you're saying is that Republicans just weren't willing to like engage in any type of policy, right, under the Biden-Harris administration, but they were willing to pass things under the Trump administration. That's all you're indicating. Bipartisan just indicates that Republicans were willing to make those expenditures under the Trump administration, but not under the Biden administration. Now look here. You see this? This is all under Trump. It's not until around, what is it, here, that the Biden administration gets in office, here, and it's not much higher. There's way more of an increase under Trump. You see right here, it starts at 13,000, and it goes all the way up here. That's way more than the increase that happened under the Biden administration. That's
Look how
M2 money
easy it is
supply.
to do this. Now, since it's so easy, let's look at the inflation rate.
I'm not disputing inflation went up, but
Let's
I
go.
was just
Let's look
telling
at
you
the
that
inflation
it
rate
wasn't.
during the same time. Let's look at it from when Trump was in office compared to when Biden was in office.
Well, I'm not disputing that, but you can't give me any explanation for how that was caused by the Biden-Harris administration. I
Parker,
can give you
because
evidence.
I just told you.
But I can give, but
I
I
just
can give
told
you,
you.
but I can give you evidence
No,
that indicates,
let me finish.
but I can give you evidence that indicates that the Trump administration did cause it.
Let me finish. So, what I was saying is, to your original response to what I said was, you're basically babbling, Alex. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Basically, what I said is, if you're using these monies to spend on job creation, yes, your job will go up. You're basically giving corporations money, free money. Well, it's not free. It's going to raise all of our cost of goods. Can you zoom it into the
Here,
just their two?
I'm also adding CFRB. One second. Biden versus.
So if you're basically, that was my claim. If you're spending money for the jobs are not beneficial. They're not real jobs, and they're just basically making everything more expensive.
Not real jobs is crazy, bro. Here's the spending.
That doesn't look like an inflation rate. That doesn't look like an inflation.
I understand. I'm gonna show this first because
All
you were
right.
trying to like make an argument out of this. So I'll show you right after. I have the inflation already pulled up, and I will show you. Is that okay? So here's the spending that was signed into law under Trump and under Biden. It's taking into account COVID and non-COVID related spending. Trump signed off on more debt-related spending.
Again, that non-COVID spending, that 4.8 trillion was minus the 1.7 trillion of the Tax Jobs and Cuts Act was
1.9.
bipartisan.
No one's disputing that it was bipartisan. It was still signed into law specifically by the Trump administration. So again, it's just indicating that Republicans were willing to make those types of determinations under the Trump administration, but not under the Biden-Harris administration.
They passed the Tax Jobs and Cuts Act partisan
Tax
because
Cuts
that
and
they were
Jobs Act.
capable. They were capable of doing it, but they didn't. So now
That's also partisan debt, by the way. So here, do you see this?
no, that's the only partisan debt. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Do you see this?
So do you see the correlation of spending of yourself into job creation, how that affects inflation? Does that chart not look eerily similar to the one that you showed me earlier?
No.
Oh my God.
No,
All
because
right,
here,
bro.
you see this? You see it? It's down. Let me
Your
explain why.
economics measure. This is where my initial claim
Hey, dude, don't just try to insult me. Can you please listen? I'm giving you an explanation right now. Stop being a jack. 9% in 2022, and it goes down it's 3% by 2023. Okay, if you want to look at real manufacturing investment right here, okay, let me pull this up. Do you see this graph? This graph by 2023, it's still increasing. Okay, it was 3% by this time. Okay, it was still increasing. Okay, that's why your doesn't make any sense. It didn't start declining since Trump got in office. For inflation, it started declining already well before Trump got in office. And since Trump got in office, right, it's gone down by 0.3%, but it's gone up since he did the thing in tariffs. See 2.3%, and it's gone up to 2.7. And we'll likely see for August that it went up as well.
So you're telling me that spending had nothing to do with inflation?
I'm saying that if you think spending causes inflation, then Trump caused more inflation. So I do think that spending causes inflation to some degree. I just don't think that was the main cause of the inflation that happened. The inflation that happened was global inflation. It happened all around the world: Africa, Asia, South America, Central America, Europe, everywhere around the world. So the idea that The idea that this was just unique to the United States or based upon our specific spending is ridiculous.
It was due to spending. The majority of if you print it in 2019, and this is again bipartisan, they I will give you that the inflation started with Trump. Yeah, I understand, but you're trying to pretend like giving money directly to corporations opposed to lowering taxes is the same thing. They both will raise the debt. I understand that, but giving money to corporations for free, that's inflationary. Cutting taxes is not inflationary, although it does increase the total debt.
Cutting taxes is inflationary, actually, because you have
Then why
increased
didn't
demand.
after the jobs, after the tax cuts,
Actually, economists
inflation did
indicated that
not
the
go
Tax
up?
Cuts and Jobs Act did contribute to upward pressure on inflation.
No, sir, it did
It
not.
does because it increases demand,
Increases demand on what?
goods and services.
All right, man. So I don't agree with you. We won't agree on this.
What do you not
You
agree
can't
on?
agree.
What I just said was factual.
What I said was factual.
No, you didn't. I just proved it. I literally just showed you it was wrong.
No, it's not wrong. The spending did cause inflation. So again, bro, that was as much as I'd like to talk to you for
So
today.
if the
So
spending caused inflation, then you agree Trump caused more inflation.
no, I don't. I just told you why there's a difference. I just told you why because handing checks to Samsung is different than cutting my taxes because I get to go save the taxes and spend the taxes freely to eventually stimulate the economy. Spending is just
Okay, so if you
simply
want to
an
give money back to people in need, well, then you know that Kamala Harris was going to keep all the tax cuts for income under $400,000 a year that was in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So all you're doing is helping people whose income is over $400,000 a year on their income over $400,000 a year. Because all the tax cuts that existed for income under 400,000, she was wanting to keep.
again. If
Did
you
you know
keep
that?
the taxes, which is fine. If you keep the
So you're just
taxes
you're
for
just shilling out for
hold
rich
on.
people, dude.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Yes,
No, I'm
you are,
not.
dude.
Because no, I'm not. Because if you raise the taxes again, it goes back to those two levers that you have at your disposal, whether it be taxes or some other means that would not stample an innovation and investment from corporations just because they have to pay a higher payroll
Oh, now
tax.
you're worried about increasing taxes leading to there being less innovation. So tariffs lead to less innovation because it reduces competition.
No,
It
that's
decreases
not.
our
No, that's
point in trade in the global market. Decrease.
so then why are all the companies coming back to the United States at least for chips in the short term?
That
Texas
was under the
Instruments
Biden administration. That was under the Biden. Since Trump got in office, real manufacturing investment has declined in the U.S.,
because he's not giving money away to corporations. He's allowing them to invest their own billions of dollars that they create
which
off
isn't
of
doing well
your
apparently, which is
work.
doing terribly apparently. And he also signed
How
off on more debt-related spending. The big beautiful bill was 3.4 trillion in debt-related spending.
I won't argue that the bill is trash. I won't
So
argue with
he's
that. But
adding
the
more
idea,
debt, and he's specifically also harming you. Like, dude,
but again, the
he's
idea,
destroying everything you care about.
and for some reason you believe that Kamala Harris wouldn't have. She's
No,
literally bought and paid
because
for by
she wanted to.
politicians.
You
She's
say
literally
she's
bought and
who is
paid
she
for
bought and
by
paid for by?
politicians. The DNC and whoever they're bought and paid for because
No,
they're
what do you mean
literally
she's bought and paid for
fucking
by the DNC?
cartel.
Is Trump bought and paid
The
for by the
DNC is
RNC?
literally a cartel, bro. Like
What are you
DNC is literally
saying?
a cartel.
Oh,
You
wait, okay, so
probably were a
how is
Bernie
she? Wait,
bro.
wait, wait. How
You
do
were
you know that
probably a Bernie
how
bro
is she
before
paid
you
by the
got
DNC?
fucking iced
Listen,
by the
listen,
DNC.
hey, listen. How is she paid by the DNC?
You were probably a Bernie bro, and you
How is
probably
she paid
more
by the
aligned with
DNC?
Bernie because she's literally talk a puppet for the DNCs. Like she's literally
So
does
because
their
she
bit.
agrees with policies from the DNC, as she was the candidate for the
No.
DNC. So is Trump then the
So why was
then
Bernie?
paid by
Why
the
was Bernie
RNC?
not?
Is
Why was
Trump
Bernie
listen to my
too
questions,
aligned
please?
for?
And
Hang
please
on.
listen to my questions. This is not productive.
Why was Bernie, who was
He's
more
not going to do it.
aligned with your far left, ideas of taxing corporations, why was he not the DNC nominee? Why was he literally pushed out
He didn't run in
by the
2024. In 2020, well, I definitely disagree with that. It's because the entirety of like the moderate side of the party all coincided behind Biden, which I
So
think
the
was bad.
moderate,
I would have preferred Bernie as the candidate.
the moderate, what you just called the moderate, is literally the corporate Democrats, like the corporate paid
Yeah,
Democrats.
sure.
They're not?
I'm not disputing that, but that doesn't mean that they're paid by the
Okay, well
DNC.
then so then again, that is the DNC. That is the 90% of the DNC, and then you got this fringe
It's not.
left.
No, it's not 90%. By the way, for if you're referencing 2020, it's like 45%, near 50% of the party supported Bernie.
I'm talking about the Bernie's gone, and any idea of you and the part of the DNC that you or part of the Democratic Party that you're on, and all of these younger people who are on this platform are literally cooked. Like you guys are a non-factor anymore to the corporate Democrats. Like they won. They literally going to boot you out. They're no longer. Why do you think fucking Gavin is going to be the next nominee? Nominee because he's going against all of
We
you
don't know.
all.
We don't know that Gavin's going to be the next nominee, but we do have influence.
Oh,
The
100%.
second top candidate for the likelihood of who's going to be in the prime or the winner of the primaries is AOC. Right? I would prefer AOC.
Whether you think AOC has a chance to get the nomination, they're going to do the same thing that Bernie
I
did.
mean, she's number two, and also if you just say that again, you can say that that's fine, but that doesn't dispute any of these points that we're making. If you think that that the moderate Democrats are bought and paid for, then you definitely think that about all Republicans, including Trump. I mean, Trump went up to big fossil fuel companies, said, "If you give me $1 billion for my campaign, I'll give you $110 billion in tax cuts." Don't tell me that moderate Democrats are specifically bought and paid for, but you're not willing to say that about Trump or any Republicans. That's embarrassing.
Absolutely, I am willing to say it. 100%, I'm willing to
So
say it.
Trump
But
is bought and paid for?
want to know the difference? Well, Trump
But
is
wait, so
bought
is
and
that
paid
does that
for
mean Trump is
himself.
paid for by the RNC?
Trump is the closest thing I would say in my concept of when I'm looking at from afar, because I don't do this every day like you have a normal job. So from
I have
afar,
a
when I'm
job.
looking
Is
at
this
all
not a
this,
job?
no, I didn't. I said a normal job. You have a different type of job. This is not a
Okay.
normal job. I think that what you do is perfectly fine. It suits you. It fits you. And the people who do it, I'm not knocking them, but it's not a normal job. As like you clock in 9 to 5 and you're doing one specific task for the majority of your
Sure.
career. So
Sure.
that's what I'm saying. So again, in any case, what I was saying is I can say that about the Republicans. I can say that they are bought and paid for by specific interests, corporate interests.
Including Trump.
Again, now what I was getting to is he might be the closest thing that we have to Bernie or AOC on
No.
either side of the
Oh
party.
my,
I
that was
am
the most
telling you,
insane take I've ever
it's
seen.
not an
You
insane
did
take
not just say that.
because if
In
he's
what
for
way?
if
In
he's
what way is
for you,
Trump close to Bernie and AOC?
by not actually giving corporations money and asking them for money. That's a huge difference. Asking for investment from corporations opposed to telling them that we're going to give you money, we're going to give you these tax breaks and
So
all this.
so one is an actual policy, the other one's not. The other one's please spend money into our economy, please.
No,
That's not a
spend
policy.
money here. No, it's spend money here or spend money over there. But now I'm putting this big giant wall of tariffs. It's not going to allow you to make it profitable. So either you do it on your own or you do it by force. Invest the money, and they are investing
Well,
the
you're
money.
just going to incentivize companies around the world to engage with other markets to a greater extent and to engage with the U.S. to a lesser extent.
But the U.S. has the biggest purse, and we know that. And if you want to keep the biggest purse, you have to make change to this current situation that we
By the
have.
way,
Where we have
everyone, Democrats bought and paid for, bad. Republicans bought and paid for, yes.